Hello and welcome to A Lady Well Traveled. I'm Shannon Bednarova, your host and creator. If you've never joined us on A Lady Well Traveled, this show is all about everything travel. I like to bring guests and information to you that can transform your travel and make it less stressful so that your entire experience is something that you're going to enjoy and remember for a lifetime. I'm so excited today because I want to introduce you to a very special lady. She's an author, podcaster, wife, and a mom. She's earned a master's degree in mental health and wellness. She also serves as a mental health and wellness advocate and a trained grief support group facilitator with Grief Share. She's also an avid runner and has completed many marathons and ultra marathons. Phew, I'm just exhausted. She's done so many great things and so many wonderful accomplishments. She's also a sister in Christ, which I love that. She loves exploring God's creation and his nature. And she also believes in the inherent healing power of the beauty of our world for those who are grieving and hurting. One more amazing thing that she's done is she has a book coming out on April the 14th. It's my pleasure to introduce you to Ruth Douthitt. Ruth, please say hello to everybody and fill in any of the areas that I have missed in this incredible resume.
Oh, thank you, Shannon. This is so fun. Thank you for having me on your amazing podcast. Oh, you pretty much covered it all. I definitely am an advocate for grief support, helping people, and definitely get healing from nature. Thank you.
Thank you so much for agreeing to be on the podcast. I was so happy when we connected
Mhm.
because you wanted to talk about your series of books you wrote about traveling in Italy. And goodness gracious, I could talk about Italy all day. What was it about Italy that made you want to explore the country? Is that a place that you've always dreamed about going? It's somewhere you've always wanted to visit? Is it a
Yeah.
place that you saw in movies or read about in books yourself? Is it because you love the food, the wine, the architecture, all of that?
I say yes, all of the above.
Okay.
Um, I think when I was a kid, I saw Roman Holiday with Audrey Hepburn
Yes.
and Gregory Peck. So that
Yeah.
was probably my introduction to Rome. And then my husband and I were bouncing around locations to go to for our 30th wedding anniversary back in 2018. And my niece had just got back from Italy and she said, go to. So I said, okay. And I wanted to do a marathon. I love doing vacation races. So I Googled, and sure enough, there's a marathon in Rome.
Uh,
So we booked it. And in April 2018, we landed in Rome and it was spectacular. I saw it the best way you can, running through the streets of Rome. That was amazing. My husband and I are both artists, so just imagine two artists standing in this amazing city full of art and architecture and those fountains. Oh my goodness,
uh,
the history. We toured the Vatican, and I'd always wanted to see the statue of David, one of my bucket list things. My husband had seen it. He was in the Marine Corps and they were stationed off the coast of Nice, France. And so he traveled extensively in that area and he was able to go to Rome and Florence. But I had never seen it. So I think one of the biggest highlights of the trip was seeing the statue of David, all the artwork, the statues, the tapestries. But running through Rome is what gave me the story. God gave me a story when I crossed the finish line. That was the first thing I said to my husband was, God just gave me a story. And he said, you're kidding. And
uh,
I told him, you would not believe what just happened to me on this marathon. And
uh.
that's what gave me the inspiration to write The Doors of Rome and then The Windows of Venice and then The Streets of Florence, that Love and Romance in Italy series. I wanted to get women our age excited about traveling, about having an adventure because
Uh-huh.
I'd just turned 51
Uh-huh.
at the time we went. And so many women that age feel like that's it. It's
Uh-huh.
over. I'm all done. I retire, I play golf, and that's about it. But I had an adventure in Rome, and I really wanted to write a story about a woman my age heading over there and having an adventure that just blows her mind. Wow, Italy just calls to me. And we went to Venice 2 years ago. And oh, I tell you, we've been through Rome extensively. I
Mhm,
definitely want to go back to the coastal towns on both sides.
mhm.
So yeah, there's still so much to do, but to answer your question, it really was the food, the art, the architecture, the
Sure.
history, right? The biblical history,
Mhm.
the
Absolutely.
romance. We've been to France, but I think Italy was far more romantic.
I
Could hardly
love
wait to go
that.
back.
Love that. That's an amazing story that it just touched you so deeply when you were there. I'm going to talk a little about that too, because I just feel like Italy is a place where every time I go, I'm at home. But
Yeah.
is Italy one of those places that when you get there, because you're a grief counselor and you work in the mental health field, is that a place where you can tell people, I would recommend this as a place to go to heal from personal hurt? Or is this a place where you can tell women or men, for that matter, to go and rediscover yourself or get in touch with who you are again? Because if you did, you'd be in the company of millions. So many people travel to do that, but Italy just seems to touch something within the soul of so many of us. Can you talk a little bit about that for our listeners?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that was the reason I wrote my books is because these women in the stories, they're in their 50s
Mhm.
and they want adventure. They crave it, and Italy gives it to them. So, yes, I have often advised women and men to go to Italy. Like my niece told me, go to Rome because
Mhm.
there's nature, there's beauty, there's water. If you're a type of person who needs the ocean, it has that. If
Mhm.
you're the type of person who needs the hills, it has that. If you just
Mhm.
want to be in a big city, it has that. It has
Right.
everything. For me, I didn't even know it, but it was so healing because I ran by the locals and they were cheering for us in the marathon, and I got to talk with a lot of people, and you just feel so in touch. So yeah, the women in my books are hurting. The first woman, Millie, she went with her best friend because her husband didn't want to go. So she's kind of struggling with maybe I made a mistake. Maybe I should move here to Rome. Maybe this is where I'm supposed to be. Then in the second book, Joy, she's hurting because she just went through a bitter divorce. Her husband of many years dumped her for a younger woman.
Mhm.
So she heads to Venice for her own healing and her own adventure, and she finds it. And she also finds love. And right when this second chance romance happens, a second chance at life, her ex husband shows up to woo her back.
Of
And now
course.
she's like, great. So that is a story of a woman who's healing from being jilted and being hurt like that. And she's wondering, should I take another chance and trust love again? And Venice just speaks to her, the water, the people, the canals, everything. Then the third book is in Florence, where these three friends head over there, and one of them is healing from grief, the loss of her husband. And
Mhm.
she finds solace, she finds healing, and she and her friends become matchmakers. They find a young American waitress there who is desperately in love with the waiter, but he's already in an arranged marriage. And so the three of them feel obligated to get this couple together. In that book, you have healing from loss, and the city helps her. You have food, lots of wine. And
Mhm.
you have these friends who are all in their 50s and they come together to help one another heal. So many of them have been through such significant hurt. They definitely do come together. So, yeah, to answer your question, I have told many people get to Italy. It has so many facets, so many diversions. You go there and you just forget. It's
Mhm.
just so beautiful because you could be walking in the modern area of Rome and you see Gucci and Armani and Chanel. Then you turn the corner and there's where Julius Caesar was killed.
Mhm.
Then
Yeah.
you turn another corner and oh, there's this incredible fountain. So it's so magical. Yeah, I definitely recommend folks there. And that was kind of the idea behind the stories of healing, definitely.
I love that. Yeah, I tell people that Italy was one of the places that I traveled to around the world that when I got there, I just felt like I was at home. Like these
Mhm.
were my people. This was my food. This was my land. These people were just like me. They were loud and passionate and they talked with their hands. Just my people. Maybe we didn't speak the same language, but we just got along really well and we liked to hug each other and their food was so great and I just loved everything about it. And I just
Oh, yeah.
everything I just felt so at home and what was about and as soon as I left, I missed it and I just
Mhm.
couldn't wait until I got back there, and that's just kind of a really weird feeling when you go to somewhere that's totally foreign, but you're like, "Wow, I'm just back where I always should have been." I don't know if it's just because there's something so ancient about it and primordial that it just touches our soul and how we feel, and it's walking in the footsteps of Paul, but being a Christian and knowing that, Paul was in Rome and a lot of the early church was there and this, that,
We
and the other.
toured St. Paul's Basilica, and it was just definitely an experience.
Yeah, yeah, and, going to St. Peter's and just,
Oh my, yes.
seeing everything that you see there is just so incredible, but like I said, I love to laugh, I love to cry, and Italy is just one of those places where I think if you've never been, if your heart is closed or hurt or wounded for whatever reason, your heart's gonna open up.
Absolutely.
That can't be but a good thing for
Yes.
a person. Now I appreciate you talking about the book series because you said when you crossed that finish line, the book series idea just popped out of your head, but did you know that you were gonna do the 3 books, or did you have that idea for the first book when you crossed the finish line?
Just the first book because we had gone there for vacation, but I also wanted to run the marathon and I hadn't really trained. I had run an ultra marathon that December and then
Okay.
registered for the race in January. My husband said, "Are you sure you can be ready for a marathon by
Okay.
April?" And I said, "Oh, yeah, sure. No problem."
No
But
problem.
I didn't realize how warm it was going to be that day. And we here don't start our races until about 6:30 in the morning. And the race there in Rome started at 9 a.m. So that was kind of
Ooh,
late.
yeah.
So already I was a little put off by that and wondering, okay, how am I going to handle this? And then there was cobblestone, lots and lots of
Yeah.
cobblestone,
Yeah.
7 miles of hills, the very famous 7 hills.
Yeah.
And so that blew me away too. But I was able to
Sure.
really take in the scenery, stop and take pictures. I got to mile 11 and there was the Pope giving mass at St. Peter's. It was around mile 16 that I hit the wall and I started to get really sick. I knew something was wrong and my back was killing me. I knew I was going to have to stop, but as a runner, you often think of stopping and walking as giving up, right? But
Right.
I knew
Well,
I had to. I just had to. I was about to pass out. It was so warm.
yeah.
So I sat down and I felt like such a loser. I thought, oh my gosh,
Uh,
I was so cocky. I was so arrogant that I thought I could do this without any training. And boy, was God teaching me a lesson. So I bowed my head and I prayed and I said, God, I am really scared. I'm
mhm.
far from my husband. I don't know where I am. And my
Right.
battery on my phone is almost dead. And I don't think I can make it to that finish line. I am really scared and I need your help. Please help me.
Uh,
And then as soon as I said amen, I heard this man coming up to me saying, Allah, Allah, get up, get up, get up. And he had
oh.
his hand out and I looked at him and he was a fellow marathoner and he was speaking to
Mhm.
me in Italian. So I grabbed his hand and he said, walk, don't
Uh,
run, walk.
uh.
And I got some water and it was so nice to hear that somebody give me permission to walk.
Yes,
So I
yes.
did, and he spoke wonderful English. He said his name was Sal, and he lived there all his life. He was born in Rome, and he worked. I said, "How'd you learn English?" He said, "I worked for the U.S. Navy in Naples, and that's how I learned English." And so as we walked, he gave me a tour of the whole city. He said, "Over here is where I grew up, and over there is where my father worked." And we walked through the old Olympic Village, the 1960s Olympic
Yeah.
Village, and he said, "This is where the athletes slept," and da da. And so I got like this little mini history lesson as we were
Uh,
walking. And I told him, "Thank you for this. I really don't know how I could have made it. You are an answer to
Sure.
prayer." And he said,
That was a
"Sure."
God thing for
Yeah.
sure.
So
Yeah.
we got to mile 25 and I said, "Let's run. Let's run to the finish line." He said, "Okay." So we ran and we both crossed the finish line and that's when I realized, "Okay, I've got a story. I definitely have a story." So when we got home, I started to flesh it out and I said, "It'll be about a woman who feels like her life is over. She yearns for adventure, but she has a very, strict kind of stodgy husband who keeps
Uh-huh.
saying he wants to put it off. We'll put it off till retirement. When we retire, then we'll
Uh-huh.
go." But she enters a photography contest and she wins, and the prize is an all expenses paid trip for two to Rome.
Uh,
But he says, "No, I can't go. I have to work." So she takes her best friend instead, and
uh-huh.
her friend challenges her to run the Rome Marathon. She says, "I'll go with you only if you run the Rome Marathon with me." And so Millie is her name, and she says, "Okay, let's go." So when she gets there, she's still a little sad that her husband didn't come with her, but she's thrilled to meet all these other people. All there's five other winners of the contest, and they brought friends and they brought their spouses or their parents.
Uh-huh.
And she gets to meet all of them, and they get to tour Italy together, Rome and Florence and the
Right.
Vatican, everything together. And so when she sees the statue of David for the first time, I knew exactly how she felt. So I
Uh-huh.
described it as I saw it. And I just felt like, wow, thank you, God, for giving me this story. I knew exactly how to describe, like you said, the people, the hotel, the lobby, the restaurants. Oh my goodness, all
Uh-huh.
those restaurants. And then, of course, the marathon. I had Millie go through something similar. So, yeah, I only intended to write the one book, but so many people said, "Okay, what happens next? What happens next?"
Yeah. Yeah.
So I thought, okay, I'll take the other friend, Joy, to Venice. And I told my husband, "We need to go to Venice now." And he said, "Okay."
Absolutely. So, and I would encourage you next, you need to do the Amalfi
Yeah,
Coast.
absolutely.
Then you need to do the Lake region, Garda Maggiore and Como, and then you need to do another book about that.
There
So,
you
yeah,
go.
that would be awesome.
I am right there with you. Oh my goodness.
Sounds wonderful. Well,
Absolutely.
I love it. And, I'm going to give you an opportunity when we finish up to tell our listeners all about your titles and where they can get those books. And I know I'm going to be looking for them as well so I can read them because now, of course, my
Great.
curiosity is very piqued.
Great.
I would like to kind of veer off just a little bit because you've mentioned that your characters have all experienced some kind of loss or grief. And I know that you have background in helping people deal with loss, grief, and sadness. Tell me about your background as a grief counselor and your background in mental health. How has that played a role and impacted your writing?
Sure, absolutely. In 2015, my sister passed away from cancer,
Mm,
my older
mm,
sister. Before she got sick, I thought I understood grief. You
right.
lose your grandparents and you think, "Oh, I understand grief." But I didn't until my sister died. That's when I started to realize how it affects us. And then 5 months later, my mom died. Our mom died
Oh,
of a heart
wow.
attack.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was 10 years ago. That's when I really started to go down that path of
Uh-huh.
darkness. And that's when our pastor said, "You need to go to Grief Share." And so I
Uh-huh.
did. And as I was in Grief Share, that's when I learned that everything that was happening to me is totally normal
Mhm.
and that I wasn't alone, that
Right.
the foggy brain and the feeling inadequate, unable to sleep, and having flashbacks, all that was normal. And
Mhm.
that made me feel so much better because you start to feel like you're the only one in the world who's going through this. So
Right.
when you see that you're not alone, you feel so much safer. So as I healed, from grief, I always ask God, why? Why did this happen? Why did you take my mom and take my sister from me when I needed them? I don't understand. Why is this happening? And I waited for the answer. And then around 2017, the college that I work with started to put together a master's degree program with an emphasis in grief and bereavement. And I started
Uh-huh.
helping them develop those courses. And so as I worked with the subject matter experts, they were helping me with my
Sure.
grief. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. And when the
Yeah.
program was done, they said, "Ruth, you really should enroll in this program. And so I did. And
Yeah.
I loved it. I learned about how grief affects the brain and the physical body and the emotional and the spiritual
Mhm.
connection. I learned about how to cope in healthy ways. When I graduated, I got the answer to my question, why did this happen? It's like the Lord said, Ruth, I want you to help others
Mhm.
with their grief. And so I
Yeah.
just felt so thrilled that I got my answer. That's what
Mhm.
I did. I started to facilitate grief share. I
Mhm.
started to, right now, I'm taking courses to get certified as a grief coach so I can work one on one with folks. I really started to see how the fine arts can help us heal. I use my
Mhm.
art and my books, and there's hope for them and there's hope for people in the world. That's how the writing started to come into play because I'm an artist first. I've always painted and I've always drawn. But with my writing, I needed to have a purpose for it. And after I got my degree, that really transformed my writing. And I made sure that
Absolutely.
the characters in there are relatable to people in the world. As they're reading about that character, they're thinking, oh, I went through something like that too.
Can you tell us about Grief Share? I know that it is typically offered through churches, and a lot of times we think about grief just being like the loss of a family member, a spouse, a parent, child. Tell us about Grief Share for those of our listeners who perhaps are struggling with grief and maybe need a program like that.
Sure. Well, Grief Share is a faith based program that
Mhm.
helps people learn how to cope with grief in healthy ways. I mean, we all know
Mhm.
how to cope in the unhealthy ways,
Right. We all
alcohol,
do that,
drugs,
don't we?
right? Yeah. But Grief Share focuses on the 5 phases of grief that you may go through. And they really focus on connecting spiritually.
Mhm.
Although you mentioned all the different kinds of loss, Greshare only focuses on the loss of a loved one. But
Okay.
there are other programs like divorce care. It's like a offshoot of Greshare. Divorce care helps
Mhm.
those dealing with that. Greshare has like 13 weeks of videos and then a workbook that we go through, 13 lessons that we go through together. We meet either in person or online, and it's what we call a heterogeneous group where everybody there has different kinds of loss. Might have a loss of a parent or a grandparent, loss of a child, or loss of a spouse.
Mhm.
And we've even had some women there who had miscarriages. Some people think I want to meet with people who have the same kind of loss as me.
Mm.
I'll refer them to a group where it's more the same loss. Hospice has those kinds of groups where you can sit with people who lost a child or a parent.
Right.
But Grief Share has all different kinds of love, the loss of a loved one. I highly recommend it. It's for 13 weeks, and a lot of folks feel after they're done that they want to go through it a second time because they want to pick up more information. If your listeners are interested, you can go to griefshare.org and find a group by just typing in your zip code, and all these groups near you will pop up.
Thank you. I
Sure,
appreciate you elucidating that for us
sure.
because I know a lot of people struggle with grief, and
Oh, yeah.
especially I believe in faith-based groups, particularly because they certainly are looking to God and healthy ways for folks to cope.
Hmm.
And I think that that's always a good answer. Thank you for doing that.
Sure.
I noticed from your bio that you also are really into running the half
Hmm.
marathons, and the ultras. And obviously, running that race in Rome was how you got started in writing your books there. I wanted to ask you because I know running can be a real outlet for grief or trauma. And did you use your running as an outlet for your emotions? Or did you do it for health purposes only, or just because you love to run? Tell me a little
Yeah.
bit about that.
It's kind of a mixture, but you're right. I
Okay.
mean, I never really thought of it, but I guess you're right because I experienced some childhood trauma and I started running in high school in
Mhm.
track and cross country. And
Sure.
that's really where I fell in love with it. I found
Mhm.
that it was very empowering and it gave me confidence in myself. I
Huh.
ran all through college and I got away from it for a little while. And then in my 40s is when I started racing, like marathons and stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah, it became a way for me to, like you said, de-stress,
Mm.
handle mental health things. It's so good for mental health
So
and wellness,
therapeutic.
Yeah, it is. I found that for the trauma that I went through after I lost my mom, it was great. And I started to dive into those ultra marathons because when trauma happens, some people are what they call hyper arousal. They look for those high adrenaline rushes
Right,
like
right.
skydiving or climbing Kilimanjaro or something like that, or swimming with the sharks. All then there's people who are hypo arousal where they retreat and they just
Right.
become isolated and they
Sure,
find more peace
sure.
that way. So I was kind of like a mixture. And I wanted to do these ultra marathons to challenge myself.
Mhm,
I wanted to see if I could do it. But I remember one where I was running, and as the night set, I was all by myself. At first, I had
mhm,
all these people running with me, and then all of a sudden, I was all alone on the track, and it was cold, and it was around midnight. And I just felt like, am I doing the right thing? I felt like
mhm,
giving up. But
mhm,
I thought in Hebrews, this is what it talks about, where the author of Hebrews said, run the race with endurance.
mhm.
You have a cloud of witnesses who have gone before you, and they're cheering you on. So
Right.
that verse and others really kept me going. So I often use that story when I talk with folks who are struggling with trauma and they're trying to recover, that you start off with all these people around you, then all of a sudden you might feel like you're all alone. But keep going, run the
Mhm.
race the best that you can. And like I mentioned, I always felt like a loser if I had to walk. Well, one time during an ultra marathon, I was so tired, but I didn't want to walk because that means you're a loser. And then
My
this guy who ran by me, he has the world record. He holds the world record for running the most ultra marathons. And he walked by me and said, keep going. And he walked by, and I thought, well,
Yeah,
if the world record holder can walk, I can
absolutely.
walk too. There's so many life lessons in running. I've
Mhm,
got a dozen stories and that I like to share with people because it helps them. Walking is wonderful. I have a partial tear in my hamstring right now, so I'm having to just walk.
mhm.
But I'm finding that that's therapeutic too. It
Like
just clears your mind, it refreshes you, you feel confident. So, yeah, I think you're right. I think it did help me handle the childhood trauma that I went through, and I didn't
mhm,
even realize it until you
mhm,
said that. But then
mhm.
as I got older, I realized now, yeah, the running those ultra races and really pushing myself was kind of
Sure,
that
sure.
hyper arousal type of coping.
Mhm. Yeah. And I have a knee replacement and I need another one,
Mm,
but I walk
yeah.
a lot
Mhm.
and I travel a lot and constantly am walking for long distances and hiking, and I look at my walking as like you look at your running. It's an endurance thing for me. So I know that I live right on a beach, so when I'm walking on the beach, it's my time to be with God and to communicate with God, and that's a very important thing for me. So, do you feel any activity can be a time that can be very healing and therapeutic for people who are suffering from trauma and grief? And pretty much any activity can be used as a time to build your confidence and think about
Mhm.
what you can accomplish and that foundation of, yes, I've had maybe bad things that have happened to me, or maybe I have had some tough stuff in my life, but yes, look what I can do. Are those
Mhm.
good things to think about for people who are suffering?
Absolutely. Great question. When I do coach those who are going through grief, I bring up the fine arts all the time because that
Mhm.
it's so important. I have them journal. And they might say, "Oh, but I don't write." And I say, "It's not writing for other people to read. It's a conversation that you're having with yourself.
Sure.
Or just write to God or write a letter to your loved one. Or I have them paint or draw because that taps a part of the brain that we need to release. And
Mhm.
it just gives them a chance to not even think about anything but create something and express yourself. There's this wonderful grief support group out here in Arizona called Stepping Stones of Hope. They have weekend camps where they take whole families who have suffered tremendous loss of a child or, from like a horrible accident or something.
Uh,
And the kids, they have them do art projects. The parents, they have them go for walks in the forest. And the teenagers, they have them do music or theatric production, theater
mhm.
production. So
Mhm.
they tap into all the fine arts during this weekend retreat because they understand that's what these people need. They need an outlet to
Right.
express themselves. And a lot of the teens, they're kind of wrapped up in some anger issues or they don't want to
Sure.
express themselves. But when you have them listen to their favorite song or get up on a stage and recite something from Hamilton or,
Mm,
Titanic or something, it just brings out this emotion inside of them that they had all bottled up. So yeah, I'm often telling people tap into the fine arts. If you haven't done music in a long time, give it a try. If you haven't done writing for a while, give it a try. Reflect back to the things that you loved to do before the loss and
right.
tap into that again. One lady said, "Well, is knitting okay?" I said, "Yes,
Of
definitely."
course.
Do something that helps you heal. Not everybody can run and not everybody can get on a bike and ride for 100
Mhm.
miles, but most of us can walk, and just going for a walk around the block, I find to be so therapeutic for me. After a hard day of work, I just take off and I don't listen to anything. I
Mhm.
unplug from my phone. I just listen to the birds or even the traffic, the hum, of the traffic.
Mhm.
And I just don't think about anything. And that usually by the end of that walk, I have an idea for another book, or I just feel so much better. So, yes, listeners, tap into that. Go back to those things that you were passionate about and try them again. You don't have to be perfect. You're not going to hang the painting in a gallery. It's just you expressing yourself. So give it a
Mhm.
try.
I love that. So, you and I have talked about using travel certainly as a catalyst for healing. And I know personally, I have used travel for healing, and it's been some of the best therapy I've ever done. Whether it's crying my heart out to God in the Garden of Gethsemane in Israel, or
Yeah.
witnessing the beauty no matter where I am in the world, because, it seems to allow me to unlock my heart and my brain and let the trauma, the anger, the passion drain out and the joy and the sunlight come back in. As a mental health professional, why do you think that is? What does
Mm.
travel do to us that allows that to happen?
Great question. Well, those of us who have experienced trauma, whether it was parents divorcing when you were young, your father walks out, or uh, abuse of any kind of trauma that you've suffered involves a loss of control.
Right.
And we grow up with that, or if you're an adult and you went through trauma, I know that's what I learned from experiencing various kinds of loss,
Mhm.
death, is I have no control. And I hate that. And we hate that
Right.
feeling. We have no control. Especially Americans, we're big on control.
Oh, y
But trauma involves loss of control. So that explains why so many of us get involved in those high adrenaline things,
Mhm.
jumping out of airplane stuff. But travel allows you the opportunity to have a little bit of control. You get to select the destination, when you're going to go, and what you're going to do when you get there.
Mhm.
Whether it's not doing anything. I remember when we went to Hawaii, I told my husband, I don't want to do anything for 2 days. I
Mhm.
just want to
Mhm.
sit on the
Mm,
beach.
mm,
So you have that control. And it's kind of exciting to pick the Airbnb or the hotel or the hostel that you're
mhm.
going to stay at and the excursions that you're going to do. You regain a little bit of that control, but then you also have to lower your expectations and realize when I get there, I may not be able to do everything that I'm going to do that I planned, and that's okay.
Mhm.
So you're kind of
Mhm.
letting go too. And so there's a little bit of risk involved, but it teaches you risk management. It teaches you to prepare for those obstacles that might pop up. When we went to Venice, we got stuck in LA airport for 2 days. Our flights got
My.
canceled 3 times, and that
My,
was,
that's awful.
yeah, horrible. But it made getting to Venice that much more beautiful.
Of
When
course.
we saw the city appear on the horizon, we were like, oh my gosh. So it's things like that that help you emotionally. There's like this regulation that occurs. And that's why so many people heal from
Mhm.
traveling. And I know listeners might be saying, well, I can't afford to go to Italy. I can't afford to go to France. And that's okay. Travel your own state, travel
Absolutely.
nearby, see new things that you've never seen before in your own state or travel to the
Absolutely.
United States. Oh my goodness, hit all of the natural parks. The natural national
Mhm.
parks are absolutely astounding. So,
We're so
yeah.
blessed in the
Mm,
United States to have basically 50 countries right here.
exactly.
and just some of
Yes.
the most beautiful places on earth, really, in the United
Yes.
States.
Oh my
So
goodness.
you are
Yosemite.
absolutely right
Yes, go
that
to
we
Yosemite. Go to the Grand
yes.
Canyon.
Oh, my Niagara Falls. I mean, just oh goodness, what an incredibly beautiful country we live in. Now, why do I feel, and maybe this is just me again, but somehow Jesus and God are more accessible to me when I'm traveling? Is it because I'm surrounded a lot of times by incredibly beautiful locales and scenery and sights? Or if I'm on a plane, I'm up in the clouds and they're
Yeah.
so beautiful? Or is it just because my heart and my soul feel more at peace? Again, are we hearkening back to what we just talked about? Or what do you think the answer is?
That's a great question. And a lot of it does deal with having that spiritual connection. I mean, Shannon, you're a person who's grateful. You've been through a lot in your life, but you wake up with gratitude.
Yep, I
And
do.
that's where it starts. In my master's program, we had to do a lot of research. And I even found that secular research from the federal government says
Hmm.
that people who have experienced loss and are grieving, people who have that spiritual connection, they recover in a healthier way than people
Hmm.
who don't. And
Hmm.
so that's what survivors do. They have that awareness of what's around them. And I often tell the people I support with grief, wake up feeling gratitude. Name four or
Hmm.
five things that you are
Hmm.
grateful for immediately before you even get out of
Absolutely.
bed. So I sense that with you, and I often tell people you're the ones who will get the most out of life, out of an
Mhm.
experience. So yeah, I've been there too when I'm looking out the window of the airplane and you see the moon rise over the clouds.
Mm.
Oh
Oh,
my
yeah.
word, that's
Mhm.
spectacular. And
Yes.
then when you go to the mountains and you just look out, I got to run the half marathon at Yosemite and it
Wow.
started at 6 in the morning. And we start way up at a 7,000 foot elevation and we run down the forest trails. And I got to see the forest wake up. We had
Man.
no internet, so I couldn't listen to my music. So I just
Mhm.
had the birds and
Just
the owls
watch
and yeah,
yeah.
and the
Wow.
waterfalls. So
That gives
that
me
was,
chills.
yeah, it was church. It was a religious experience that
Yes, it
I'm
was.
so grateful for. One of those races I will never forget because the Lord gave me the beauty of the
Mm.
Yosemite Park
Yeah.
on this half marathon run. So, yeah, we
Mm.
have to wake up and we have to be grateful. And then, like you said, we have to look for it and then cherish it because not everybody gets to experience that. So, we
Mhm.
have to be so grateful.
Absolutely, and I know that one of your desires, your calling that God gave you is to inspire women to travel. Like you said, not everybody can travel around the world, we got that, but maybe it's just down the street, around the
Mm-hmm.
block, to the next county, to the next city, or maybe the next state, but to open our eyes and see the beauty. That's really what we need to do is just open our eyes and see what's around us. Tell us about that aspiration and why you feel like that's what you want to do now.
I mean, we only have a few years left. You and I
Mhm.
are at the
Mhm.
fall of our lives, the fall season. We're starting to approach winter. And so we want to encourage others to do hard things. Those
Sure.
those hard things are what change us. And when you lift more weights at the gym, you're going to have that resistance, but your muscles might be sore, but you're going to get stronger. And so for
Mhm.
me, that's why I wanted to start to do these vacation races and not just run the same marathon every year, but go places and
Mhm.
see new cities. And at first my husband was like, I don't think so. I said, yes. So we did the San Diego half marathon and he saw how beautiful it was. And then we did Yosemite. We've done Lake Powell. That's all in our neighborhood. Lake Powell is just 4 hours away
Yeah,
from where I live.
right,
And that
exactly.
that was one of the most beautiful spiritual
Yeah,
races. I did it right after my sister died, and I swear I felt her presence there. It was
I
so
bet.
beautiful to watch the sunrise over Lake Powell. So
Mm.
yeah, I challenge women find an activity or a travel
Mhm.
destination that is restorative, that it
Mhm.
will restore you and replenish you. If it's just going on a cruise, go on a cruise and
Right.
just sit and take in the sights. If it's going to the beach, go to the beach and listen and feel. Try to really tap into all the senses because doing those hard things are what make us grow. Doing the
Mhm.
easy things, yeah, I mean, sitting on a raft is fun and it's nice, but getting up on a surfboard and trying to
Mhm.
surf, yeah, it's going to be scary and you might fall down, it's going to hurt, but you will have a story. When you are
Yeah,
done, you will have a story. So, yeah, do hard
absolutely.
things. Yeah.
That's very, very important. Now, I want you to think back on your travels, and you've obviously been to a lot of wonderful places in the world. And I want you to tell our listeners about the most memorable woman that you've ever encountered on your
Mm.
travels and why. And she doesn't have to be famous, she can be, but she can be a grandmother or a movie star, a farmer, a teacher, a politician, or just somebody that you met along the way. And I'd love for you to tell us why she inspired you.
Wonderful. Well, I was able to go to Slovakia on a mission trip to a little town called Luceniec to
Do
teach
you know
English.
that's where my family is from?
Yes, that's wonderful. I noticed your last name. Yes, that's definitely
Yes, that is
Slovakian.
so
Yes.
cool.
It's so beautiful there. Coming from the desert and then going to Slovakia was a dream come true.
Man,
But I'm also a World War II history fan. I
me
just
too. I
love World War II
love that.
history.
That's like my
Yes.
favorite period of history to
So
study.
we had a little bit of a break between the English camps. It was a weekend and we had like this gathering to have dinner with some of the locals. And this young woman was one of our interpreters and she brought over this older woman to sit with us and I got to ask her questions and she and her husband had been in Luchenitz during World War II. And so I got to ask her some questions about that through the interpreter. And just looking at her face as she described how the Nazis had come into the area and bought 30,000 Jews from the locals and
Mm,
rounded them up into the railroad cars and sent them to Auschwitz.
my.
And as she was telling me this, I had just walked across those railroad tracks on my
Yeah.
way to this gathering, and I saw the synagogue that was in town. The Nazis had not burned it to the ground; they had gutted it, but for some strange reason, they let it stand, and it was a beautiful architecture,
Mm,
very Middle Eastern architecture. And so she started telling me the story about that. She was about, I think, 17 or 16 when it happened.
mm,
And so she was telling us how horrible it was to see her friends who, she went to school with suddenly being rounded up and taken and put on these railroad cars out to Auschwitz and never to be seen again, and how it really
ah,
shattered the whole city. This little town, beautiful town, was just shattered by it. So I never forgot that woman's eyes as she told that story. You could see the regret and the pain in her eyes
mm.
because she had survived, but she knew that so many of her friends had been killed.
That is
So yeah,
something. That is
on my
quite
travels of all the places I've gone, that was the conversation that stayed with me the most. Yeah,
wow. Yeah, I bet it's very haunting.
it
Just
was.
completely haunting. Wow. Well, what role would you say that your faith plays in your everyday life and in your life as an author?
Mm. My faith has got me through so many difficult times. Today's my dad's birthday, and I lost him 3 years ago to cancer. And so, yeah,
Sorry.
when I look back and I think, wow, that was such a tumultuous year, 2023.
Mhm.
But now I can look back and see how God's faithfulness was there. And I wish I could say that's the last grief journey I'll ever go through. But no, unfortunately, there are
Of
more to
course.
come.
Sure, of
But now
course.
I know how to cope in a healthy way. Now I know that God is faithful, and so I can rely upon Him. I know that statistically women outlive their husbands, so I probably will outlive mine. I have to remember that God will provide no matter what comes down the road.
Sure.
He will provide. So my faith has always got me through some of the most difficult times of my life, and I know that it will continue to get me through. Our son, he's not a believer in Jesus, and so we pray for him every single day. He's
Mhm.
gone from being an atheist to now he fully believes Jesus walked the earth. And probably, he said, yeah, he probably did resurrect from the dead. So he's getting closer to believing. So I have faith every day that one day I will see my son realize that he needs Jesus. So yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, that's why I try and put stories of faith and hope and restoration in all my books so
Sure.
that even if a reader is not a Christian, they can still walk
Mhm.
away from that story having some hope.
I think that's a wonderful goal to have, and something that I tell a lot of people is, you may be the only Bible anyone ever reads.
Mm, that's beautiful. I love that.
And that I hope, if nothing else, somebody can listen to me or look at me and go, yeah, I can understand who she is because of her faith. So,
Yeah.
well, this has just been absolutely wonderful. I just so appreciate you joining us today, Ruth. It's just been a delight. And with all of the great information that you've shared with us, if you don't mind, share with our audience where they can get in contact with you, if you'll outline all of your social media, your website, and also go over the titles of your books again for us, if you
Sure.
would. And where, those can be purchased if it's like Amazon or whatever, or if you prefer like off of your own website. But let everybody who's tuned in know how they can find out all things Ruth so that they can get access to everything that you do.
Sure. Yeah. The best place to go is my website, which is artbyruth.com.
Okay.
And there you'll learn more about me. You get to see all of my books, even my podcast episodes, and you can see some of my artwork there too. That's the best way. You can sign up for my newsletter there, and that way you'll be aware of upcoming projects if you do that. To get my books, they're all on Amazon. All of them are
Okay.
on Amazon. And the titles of my Love and Romance in Italy series are The Doors of Rome, The Windows of Venice, and The Streets of Florence.
My,
Yeah, that's my
very
favorite
nice.
series.
I love
And
that.
I'm on Instagram the most. I'm at author R.A. Douthitt there. And of course on Facebook, author Ruth Douthitt there. Yeah, shoot me a line. I'd love to know what you think of this podcast. That would be amazing.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so follow me, sign up for my newsletter, and you'll get a free downloadable copy of my suspense novella, The Letter Opener. So head over to
Wow.
artbyruth.com.
Thank you so much. Well, this has just been so much fun, and I hope you'll consider coming on again and we can
Absolutely.
talk about some other fantastic topic. Like if you do another great marathon at another wonderful location, or you get to a different locale in Italy for another book, maybe we can talk about that as well. I'd love
Oh,
to
that
have you
would be
back on.
great. Yes, I'm hoping to go on a cruise and I'm going to research for a book, a spooky suspense story set on a
Wow.
cruise. A murder happens.
Wow,
Yeah.
that
I will
sounds
let you know.
fun. Okay, well, I would love to hear about that. Well, thank you
Thank you,
so much,
Shannon.
Ruth. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Thank you. This
Well,
has been a blessing.
I really appreciate it. I'm going to sign off now and thank you to our listeners for joining in. You know where you can reach me. That's at Shannon at aladywelltraveled.com. Shannon at aladywelltraveled.com. That's traveled with two L's. And please tell your friends and your family how they can listen on any of the streaming platforms. Let me know what you think of the show. And if you've got questions for Ruth, I'm sure she'd be happy to answer them if you want to reach out to her on her website as well. And remember that God created this beautiful, beautiful world just for you. All you need to do is get out there and see it. Until the next time we chat, bye bye.